Welcome to our 2024 Digital Transformation Trends series. I'm really excited to have a conversation today with Mitch and Jordy from the Third Stage team to talk about the importance of readiness. But before we get started, I'm Kyler Cheatham from Third Stage Consulting Group. We are a completely independent and technology agnostic advisory firm that helps our global clients reach the third stage of their digital transformation. So to start out, let's meet Mitch and Jordy. So Mitch and Jordy, thanks so much for joining me today. If you could tell our audience kind of just about your roles here at Third Stage, a little bit of background, and then we'll get into a readiness conversation. So Jordy, let's start with you.
All right. Hi, my name is Jordy McDougall. I'm a consultant at Third Stage Consulting. I work on a number of different engagements for Third Stage, ranging from selection projects, implementation readiness, and implementations, and mainly on the delivery side of things, but also facilitate workshops and anything in between.
Awesome. Rising star on the Third Stage team for sure. And Mitch, who's newer to our director position, not new to Third Stage by any means, but very excited to have him on the leadership team. So Mitch, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so Mitch Otteson, Director of Transformation here at Third Stage. My role is to support Jordy and the rest of our consultants that we have. So I'm executive oversight on a lot of our projects, just making sure that what our clients are trying to accomplish, that we're actually delivering.
Awesome. Cool. Well, wealth of knowledge definitely across industries. I think that's really the cool part about Third Stage is really looking at the verticals that we work from, whether it's renewable energy, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's textiles, food and beverage, entertainment. We kind of cover all of those nuances when it comes to a new technology implementation. So as pre-work to this conversation, I want to offer you one of our top assets, which is our Phase Zero checklist. So I'm going to pop a QR code up here, and then if you're listening in our audio format, you can get it in the description wherever you're consuming our podcast today. But it's going to give you an opportunity to really check the box on ensuring that you're actually executing on the implementation readiness or even the project readiness. A lot of times we talk about it as implementation readiness, but it's actually even before the project starts. So let's talk a little bit about that. So Mitch, when you are going into a project, when a client has called you and said, hey, I need some help on looking at what I want to achieve as far as my digital strategy, what are some pieces of readiness that you really want to look for within their business or project plan to ensure that they're kind of ready to go into a selection or an implementation?
Sure. That's a great question. I always like to start with the people. I love to understand where your teams are at, where their the business processes are at, and how comfortable they are with those processes. So I like to understand what that looks like. And then I also like to start and look at just the data and where the data is at in regards to being able to move over to a new system. There's a ton of legwork that can be done on the data side of things to really ensure success through a project.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important, specifically when we look at 2024 conversations, we look at internal strategies, and when we look at what kind of vendor sales messaging we're hearing, because a lot of it is on AI, a lot of it is on machine learning, predictive analytics. But as we know, without that good data hygiene or behaviors within your processes, that technology is not going to be functional and is ultimately going to become a technical debt, right? If you are not having those good practices in place. So Jordy, kind of turning to you, when we look at data specifically, how important is data, master data management or business processes, and looking at the readiness for implementing a new technology?
Yeah, I think it's super important. You hear often the garbage in, garbage out type of saying.
Headache. One of my favorites.
Yes, and that's true. I mean, your data is only as strong as its accuracy. And so if you're inputting data that's incomplete or inaccurate, that's what you're going to be reporting on. So it's not going to give you a true picture of your organization and where you're at. So that's definitely something really important to think about.
Absolutely. Really critical, and really critical for you to internalize, right? As a business, as opposed to relying on an outside third party to do that for you. There can be a partnership there, but unless you really understand your master data management plan and are able to execute upon it, it can be very difficult for a variety of new technologies, not only a core ERP, but bolt-on applications, integrations, all those different things. So I kind of want to take it back a step. We talk a lot about implementation readiness. That's kind of the saying or the phrase within the industry. But we actually preach phase zero. even before you select a software, the importance of readiness. So a lot of times we have a balance between where the business processes or business strategies meets the vendor or the software. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of understanding that, Mitch, of understanding the internal needs of the business, even prior to something like a selection?
Yeah, absolutely. In our process, we talk about future state requirements a lot and understanding, the current state requirements where you'd like to go in the next year, 2 years, 5 years. So if you really don't have a good understanding of where you're currently at and where you'd like to go, then you're just implementing a technology for the sake of implementing. I always like to talk about the analogy that I think it's a Lee Gretzky quote of skate to where the puck is. And so where the puck is going.
Uh-huh.
And the idea is to not implement something for today, but to implement something for the future and to meet those two things where they're at.
Absolutely. Really critical and kind of understanding that. And even going deeper into that, what are the importance of really owning those requirements as a business, Jordy, as opposed to letting maybe a vendor or a third party come in and say, these should be your requirements because I want to sell you software?
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of value in understanding your business, and no one can understand a business more than the employees and the people that are actually a part of that. So leveraging their knowledge and their experience through all the years is very important for gathering requirements. You may want to reach out to vendors and maybe get some help with best practices and certain ways or areas you can improve on. But overall, nobody's going to know your business better than the company.
Absolutely. And to have that ownership, we've talked a lot about in 2024, the concept of vendor lock-in and the risk associated with having maybe that proprietary data, maybe owned integrations, or not understanding the risk that comes with outsourcing a lot of that information. So definitely, absolutely critical. I want to talk a little bit about organizational assessment. And I can't tell you the amount of times we've sat in an executive meeting and gone through their organizational readiness assessment that we've done as an autonomous third party. And the executive team is completely shocked at the amount of resistance that we discovered from a data perspective. Can you kind of speak to the experience and the importance of looking at organizational readiness as opposed to technical readiness?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many different ways an organization can go about change. And we see all the time that there's intentional resistance. There's unintentional resistance.
Okay.
There's times where, your company, they say we embrace change. We change all the time. Well, that introduces the idea of change fatigue, where there's whiplash. We just changed this last week and now we're changing to something else. And, I can't settle into what the process actually is because it's just going to change again. And then there's the companies that don't change at all and they're stuck in this was successful for us once and this is the way we always do it. And then there's any sort of variation in the middle of those two extremes. And so figuring out where you're actually at and being able to create a strategy around those is critical for your transformation.
Absolutely, 100%. And how important is it to have an independent third party come in and do the assessments, Jordy?
Yeah, I think it's very vital to the success of the business and the project as a whole. I mean, you're going to get true, straight to the fact points, and there's no, we don't have a horse in the race, I guess, if you want to say that. So to us, it really doesn't matter what the results are. We just want to make sure that they're communicated to the entire organization.
Right. And having that opportunity for the employees to be able to give that honest and transparent feedback, right? In an ability to have an autonomous third party. That's so critical. It's because you're getting the good data that you can really address pre any disruption in your implementation. So speaking of disruption, Mitch, what happens if you don't have an effective readiness strategy in your project?
There's so many times where we've seen clients just jump right into an implementation and they don't factor in for how disruptive it can be on the day-to-day operation. So you really do need to think about things like backfilling and building the project team and understanding what's on their plate. If you just say, we're going to do this on top of everyone else's day jobs, you're either going to burn people out, you're going to risk losing some key people, or you're not going to have the key people on your project, and then you implement something that really isn't critical for the business success. So not having a good plan and thinking about those things is a big red flag.
Absolutely. And we know from even recent data in 2023 that over 80% of digital transformations fail. 83% was actually the stat released by Forbes in some of their recent areas. And failure can mean a lot of different things. It can mean that the system was implemented and it's not optimized, but ultimately failure is going to mean that we didn't reach the maximization or the ROI of our system. And so Jordy, when you look at failure from an implementation readiness standpoint, what would be the number one recommendation? I know everyone hates when I pick just one because it depends, right? That you would give your clients or your network that's going through a digital transformation to prepare?
One tip that comes to mind would be to invest in connecting with experts that can walk you through the process and help you form a successful blueprint for this project. And whether that is bringing in consultants or using resources like the internet or looking at some of Eric's videos himself would be ways just to start to learn more around these sorts of engagements and to create a successful blueprint.
Excellent. Well, definitely well said. And like I mentioned in the beginning, you can download our Phase Zero checklist that actually comes with a free mini series. So we walk you through each step to ensure that you are ready. Like Jordy mentioned, that content is completely free, and it's our mission at Third Stage to buck that trend of that high failure rate in 2024. If you do have questions or you'd like to learn more about our implementation or project readiness work, please feel free to reach out to me directly at kyler.cheatham@thirdstage-consulting.com or send me a message on LinkedIn and I can hook you up with our project professionals. I will recommend also our 2024 newly released Digital Enterprise Operations Report. This report is going to focus on all of those trends, not just readiness for 2024, so that you can consume that in your project planning moving forward. So thank you so much, Mitch and Jordy, and thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Welcome to our 2023, no, that's not it. It's 2024 is what we're talking about, is executing. All right, let me do that again. It's weird. It was just, I couldn't save it. It was getting weird.
Going on the internet and searching on
Eric Kimberly? Yeah.
sorry. That was like...
That's okay.
And seeing how the whole company I don't know.